spare Jeremy the fact that yesterday was basically one of those days that all of us have. A day from hell. It was fine in the morning until my wife called. She had an early doctor appointment at the Mayo Clinic. On the way home, she gets up to close to 55th Street, and she's looking in the sky. She hears this plop, plop, plop noise. She's sort of thinking it's maybe the Mayo Clinic helicopter. Saw nothing in the sky, saw a car swerve in front of her. She looked at that car. It was that car. It ended up being my wife's car, of course. Apparently the tire blew out. And the irritating thing about that is the AAA makes it out the right away. He's saying your tires weren't aligned correctly. We just spent $600–700 for a 30,000 mile checkup up in the cities. Apparently when they put the tires back on, they didn't put them back on right. So yesterday was another $600–700. We spent the afternoon on a Goodyear. Not literally, it's across the street from the mall, so we went over there. But sort of another day down the tubes. So that's why I didn't come up with my original speech, which was going to be about the project I'm doing this summer. But Jean can pass that slip around. Is your house sheet right next to you, Jean?
Over here?
Yeah, why don't you open that up and why don't you pass that around. That's a sort of a tentative schedule. I'm basically looking for ideas as to how to prepare that schedule.
Okay.
How to, I think we only need really ideally only 1 or 2 workers at each time. So that's sort of why I started out. And if you've ever done those column things, which thanks Jessica, taught me how to do sort of on the computer. Somehow I couldn't get my cursor in the right box on my for my last entry for the time. That's why I didn't get to Sunday, but someday I will. Next speech I'm going to be giving is on my project speech. And guess what you learned as a Toastmaster? Last week was really, really nice. I figured, well, it's supposed to rain Monday and Tuesday. I'll have plenty of time to pull a speech together. Well, Monday's a holiday, so of course I didn't do it yesterday. Yesterday it rained. Great day for a speech, but then you get the day from hell. So that's sort of why that speech didn't perform. So there's always a lesson to learn. This is my 3rd time through the first manual, the CC manual. So I'm going to tell you my life story according to my perspective as to how I ended up in Toastmasters. Many of you know I went to residential school. My parents were unique, though, because they actually bought a house in the town so that I could be a day student in the residential school rather than staying overnight. And that was primarily because my older brother had such a negative experience in the dormitory back in the 40s when those kinds of institutions were a lot more rigid. A lot more mean-spirited when it came to punishment for minor things. But after my brother graduated, and I ended up living with my brother-in-law, I figured there's nobody worse to live with than my brother-in-law. So I opted to live on campus at the school, which didn't really please my parents. My parents learned that I was a bullheaded kid, and I was basically going to do what I wanted to do, and so that's what I did. It's sort of like the time the parents bought me for Christmas the orange corduroy pants and a turquoise shirt. I told my parents, please give me money after this. So I was a pretty obnoxious kid. But they did some pretty obnoxious stuff too. So, but they sure tried. They really tried. And the older you get, the more you really appreciate the kind of commitment your parents make. But they basically split their home. Mom moved down to Faribault. Dad stayed out in Fairfax with my older brother and farmed. Weekends we would get together. Pretty big sacrifice for parents. One good thing about going to the academy, though, used to be called the Braille School, Minnesota Braille School and Sight Saving School. Now it's called the Academy for the Blind. Was they had an assembly every week. And usually 2 or 3 times a year, a student was expected to stand up in front of people and do something. I had no talent. You know, I couldn't play an instrument. Tried a few duets on the piano. But, you know, when you're a senior in high school, you sort of hate to be still playing Coming Around the Mountain. You know, I couldn't play Chopin, Mozart, like the rest of them did. So I usually ended up reciting some poetry, telling stories, anything other than playing a musical instrument. But I do love music. Still haven't learned to play anything. A few chords on the guitar. Then came college speech class. Well, I'm used to speaking. This is no problem. I can speak. Everybody else was so nervous in the class it rubbed off on me. So that class didn't have a great attitude. And I was dumb enough to let the attitude affect me. Actually, when I joined Toastmasters, I was on prednisone high. Many of you know I have Crohn's and a whole bunch of weird diseases, Addison's, asthma, whatever. Whatever you pick, I probably have it. But I believe in denial. I think that's a pretty good attitude to have to some extent. So anyway, after that prednisone high, I pretty much talked to everybody at the State Fair, including the Toastmasters. Oh, gee, they met at a great time. Saturday morning, 7:30 in the morning. Saturday morning, sort of a waste anyway. Why not join Toastmasters? And actually, I had joined, I don't know if I ever joined, but I attended Toastmasters meetings here 30 years before that, approximately 1966, 67, 68. I don't think any of you have been around long enough, except maybe for Gene, that remembers Mayor Smetka. He was in the group. And George Gibbs, I believe there's a school being named after George Gibbs. The black fellow was very community involved in Rochester. He was in that group too. So here's a 20-some-year-old kid hanging around with Mayor Smetka and George, and there was not much competition for them at that time. Probably wouldn't be now either. Mr. Toastmaster.